As you guys have looked at, I mean, last year you guys tried to figure out how you could raise money for, could you come up with some sort of fee system or something? What is it going to take to be able to maintain the trails the way that you would like to maintain them?
Well, first of all, our department saw the need that there's a lack of funding for non-motorized trails and maintenance on trails, especially the backcountry trails, the ones that are in the wilderness 2 or 3 hours from the Boise area, the urban areas. So we put together some meetings across the state, 3 summit meetings, had over 100 people attend. Those people, basically, we found some leaders, and right now we're in the process of bringing the leaders together and discussing where we could go with funding for non-motorized trails, and then going to the legislature and see if we can get that funded. The needs I see across the states for funding is the urban areas are actually doing, I think, very well, because being here 25 years, we have increased the number of trail miles on paved trails like the Trail of the Coeur d'Alene and Weiser River Trail, all these other trails. There's a lot of different trails, and we've expanded the number of trails, but we're losing them in the backcountry areas. And the funding, what we really need for is to maintain those trails in the wilderness and in the backcountry areas. And another one is the paved trails that we paved 5, 10 years ago, they are not getting any maintenance now. And those, once the asphalt goes, it's very expensive to maintain those trails. And we're just starting to see that problem. The Boise has that problem on the Greenbelt, but they're taking it out of their other, I don't know where you guys are getting the money, but it's very expensive. And that's a need too. So there's definitely going to be some, we're looking for funding, and we're going to need your guys' support.
I was talking to Jeff from the Idaho Trails Association a little bit ago, and I mean, their project list has gone from like this to this to this year. How important are things like that, volunteer work parties and that kind of stuff, to getting these trails open and keeping them usable?
Me?
Yeah.
Volunteer work parties are great. What I'm finding through my experience is that once you go drive 2 hours and have to, 2 hours or 3 or 4 hours to get to the backcountry, and that's just to get to the trailhead, then have to go in a day to get to there. It's the limited volunteer pool is that big, and you have to train them and all of that, and yet you need to stay for a week. So volunteers isn't the answer in some of these remote areas. It is in the close country, but it's just one of the. And then the other thing we're having problems with is the Forest Service's budget's been cut substantially, and we think 20% this year. That means there's going to be those recreation staff and trail staff are going to be they're going to barely be able to even talk to you on the phone. So when you call as a volunteer and say you're willing to volunteer, they're probably say, I don't have time for you. So we need to support their funding so they can help do the trails, because you can't volunteer in the trails unless they do all the preparations, the NEPA things, all the things, provide the tools, all of the things. You can't go out there and do things. So it's going to be a tough time with the backcountry trails.
I just wanted to thank the panelists and having this organization tonight. This is really great because trails are so important to Idaho. I have a question about the Big Loop project, if any of you are familiar with that project. It's supposed to come around and connect to the Weiser River Trail.
Leah?
I think I can handle that. I don't know when it started, but about 20 years ago, when the Weiser River Trail started, we saw this 80-mile trail going from Weiser all the way up to near Counselor, Tamarack, and basically headed towards New Meadows. And then there was an interest of building a trail all the way from Horseshoe Bend, following the old abandoned railroad line all the way up to Cascade. And we thought, why don't we create this big loop where we have like a 5-day loop where you'd have a rail to trail type trail, and you could have businesses along and bed and breakfast and create this 250-mile long loop. And I think it's possible, and we've got it in some plans. But we're just right now doing some planning, overall planning, so that we can send this and see if we can do that. Now, right now, one of the things we're waiting for is the Cascade, the railroad that runs up to Cascade from Emmett. They said they're not using it anymore for a scenic railroad, so we're waiting for, are they going to abandon it? When they abandon it, it's possible to make a rail trail out of it. And when that happens, when they want to abandon, I'm going to be going, it's going to be we're going to need a lot of effort to basically turn that into a trail. and then that'll be part of the big loop. But that would be, it's just an idea right now, but I think I think in 10, 15 years we could have that opportunity available to us.
And is that a paved loop?
It could be paved or it could be gravel. Right now, paving it'll be sections paved probably in the urban areas, and then the rest of it would probably be compacted gravel.